Welcome to the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast, a podcast where we teach speakers how to land paid speaking engagements and corporate contracts. Each week, we deliver high-quality content that teaches you how to level up your speaking business. Be sure to join the Speak Your Way to Cash Facebook group after having your mind blown by this information-filled episode. Now, here's your host, Ashley Kirkwood, lawyer and professional speaker. This is the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast.
Hello, welcome to the Speak Your Way to Cash podcast. I have with us today someone that I adore, Elena, and she'll be talking to us. She's a founder of the Sidegig Central Podcast. So she has her own podcast. You'll have to check that out. I've been on her podcast, and I'm happy to have her on today to talk about selling virtually, corporate selling, and kind of her experience in the sales arena and also building a brand. So give us a background on you. I know I gave a little bit, but tell us a little bit about who you are and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashley. So happy to be here. And I am obsessed with your work as well. And a little bit more about me. Prior to really getting into the corporate sales world, I bootstrapped my own personal training company from 0 to 6 figures over a 10-year span. So I have a lot of B2C selling experience. And then I started in corporate, which is I work for Lyft, the rideshare company, and I am in corporate sales. I work exclusively in the automotive industry. So there's my B2B experience. And about a year ago, I got the entrepreneurial itch again. And I was like, man, I just miss doing some entrepreneurial selling, and just entrepreneurial activities. So I decided to start the Sidegig Central Podcast, which ironically started off as a show for gig workers. And now eventually it has actually evolved into a show for people in corporate who want to actually start a side gig and eventually maybe even leave corporate, and also for small business owners who are needing extra help with selling. So I kind of had a lot of experience both owning my own business and also in corporate. So happy to share my experience with you guys.
Yeah, no, this will be great. And Elena will be joining us for the 2-day mastermind, which we were just talking about how excited we are. We are down to our last 8 seats at the time that I'm recording this. So I know it's going to sell out and be a great group of folks who are speaking. And so I guess there's so many things we could talk about, but I want to talk first about your gig experience, because a lot of folks are side hustlers as speakers. They're doing it on the side. It's not their main thing. And they're either working a full-time job and trying to grow a speaking business, or they are full-time entrepreneurs and trying to grow speaking as a stream of revenue for their business. What would be your advice on time management and scaling while working a full-time job? Because you're full-time at Lyft.
I am full-time. And I will preface this by saying anyone who tells you that it's easy is lying to you, because it is very difficult. Okay. I sometimes find myself trying to do a sanity check. Like, why am I hustling so hard? Like, what, so you have to be very, very clear with your why. I encourage, the clients that I do sales coaching for privately, I always dig into what is their why. And it has to be strong enough for you to be able to pursue your side gig and scale it. And the reason why is because there's going to be a lot of roadblocks. There's going to be a lot of times where your full-time job is going to demand all of your energy. And right. I think, Ashley, we did chat about this on our episode last time about not quitting your full-time job. I personally think it's irresponsible to quit your full-time job. Now, everybody's kind of circumstances are different, but for the majority of us, we can't just, our side gig is not backed by Sarah Blakely of Spanx or like any of these like huge moguls. Like our side gig is bootstrapped, right? So you have to be able to have that steady source of income to help basically fund your dreams. So you want to also start off with your why. And you had mentioned about time management, because there is definitely an art and a science to time management. Yeah. And I will say that your calendar has to be be your end all be all. You have to be very strict with your time. And I think I would also say too is what's helped me is to set timers for a task. I work in Salesforce a lot, and I work in Salesforce a lot for Lyft. And what I like about working in a CRM like that, it was a client relationship management system. Sorry, too many acronyms.
Yeah.
But if in that system, I get to start doing tasks, right? So I delegate the tasks that I know that I can get to before lunchtime. Schedule in lunch. Please do not forget to eat. So make sure you do all these tasks and you put them in some sort of a project management or so, because you can't just wing it, because then you're never going to know what your progress actually is, right? If you have a way of measuring your progress through tasks and things of that nature, you can see, wow, I've really actually got done X, Y, and Z. So have a really strong why, get really comfortable with a project management system. And also, I would say, do not be afraid to reach out for help. Right? Do not feel like you have to be alone in this. There are so many of us out here that are, have a full-time job and scaling another business at the same time. And I think it's important to find a mentor and maybe even a group of people, which I'm sure we're going to all meet up in October at your summit, Ashley.
Hey guys, it's Ashley Kirkwood here, and I know this is an amazing interview. And if you are someone who is interested in taking your speaking career to the next level, then do I have something for you? Okay, I need you to go to ashleynicolekirkwood.com/SYWTC live replay. That's ashleynicolekirkwood.com/SYWTC live replay. The link is also in the show notes that you can grab the Speak Your Way to Cash live replay, which has 7 modules, a ton of information about how you can start speaking your way to cash. Now, this training is absolutely action-packed, phenomenal. It has additional resources. It has templates. It has a podcast pitch template, a college pitch template, something you can send to media outlets to get on television. It has everything you need to develop a sales strategy, a press strategy, and a plan to skyrocket your speaking career. And it is crazy affordable, okay? So head on over there right now, ashleynicolekirkwood.com/SYWTC live replay, and grab your copy today. All right, let's get back to this interview.
Yeah, no, definitely. Those are all really good points. And one of the things that I love that you said was having tasks to do, but then putting a time period on those tasks. I think that that's critical. And one of the things that I tell speakers, because, you're pitching every day, hopefully, you're pitching every day, you're managing current clients, you're following up. You have people who will say, like, I've been doing a lot of LinkedIn selling specifically. And a lot of folks will say, oh, this is great. Reach out to me in August. Oh, this is great. Reach out to me in September. I put calendar invites in August or September on my calendar. But more importantly, what I've started to do is I'll just send the email right then and then date it for August 15th or September 15th, right when they say to follow up. Like I just schedule the email and it goes out on that date, because more than likely, I am trying to interrupt their day-to-day with what I'm trying to sell. Like they have stuff they have to do on their day. Ashley Kirkwood is not on their calendar. So I am trying to interrupt all the things that they have going on in their day to day. And they're not going to remember in August, oh, I should reach back out to that girl who I wanted to bring in to speak. No, they're not going to remember. So I automate those emails. So those are some really good things that you mentioned. So I want to dive into sales now, because I love sales. It's one of my favorite topics. I learned to sell in corporate, which is why I wanted to have you involved, is because I think that the way corporations teach you to sell is the way that you should sell. Like it's automated. It is typically tech backed. So you have a CRM and it's steps. So what is the sales cycle? If you were to say what are the 4 parts or the 5 parts of the sales cycle, what are those, and how can we start thinking about implementing those as entrepreneurs?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you had mentioned the sales cycle, because it is a process, right? I can't just snap my fingers and get somebody, unless I'm really, really good, or like I'm Oprah or something. Snap my fingers and get somebody sold and add to cart and already to the buy page, right? So the first stage is the discovery, right? Is to see if this person or your prospect is the best fit to work with you. And again, I would stress the fact that not everyone is going to be your ideal client, right? So I think right away in that first stage, in that discovery phase, and that's why I also teach a lot of my private clients to make sure that you're asking the right questions. Okay. So I can get back to that a little bit later, but so discovery phase, and the next point, you're going to have a solution proposal, right? How are you solving a problem, right? As entrepreneurs, we are solving problems daily, but what is the pain that you're actually solving for this person, right? So that has to be crystal clear. And then after you get into the solution proposal, you have the customer buy-in, right? Customer buy-in is they raise their hand. They're like, yes, Ashley, I want you to speak for my organization. I'm so excited about it. What are the next steps, right? And then you're like, perfect. All right. I'm going to be following up with all of the details of, what's going to happen and walk them through step by step. So there's nothing lost in translation. The expectations that you're setting up ahead of time, you're following through, and already in their brain, they're like, man, Ashley is on it. I know that she is going to bring the professionalism. She's going to bring everything that she's promised back in that solution proposal. And you're already acting that out into the customer buy-in, right? So after customer buy-in, we can get into some nitty gritty, signing the contract and collecting payment. Those are very critical pieces of the buy, right? We got to get paid. We got to have a contract. Ashley, of course, we got to have the contract. So once those are done, then, right, the project can start, and that's the sales cycle. Now, what I will also say about the sales cycle too is that it doesn't really end after you have collected that payment, and maybe even after the project is finished. And what I would say to that is that at that point, the customer or the client then needs to be re-nurtured and re-engaged with what you got going on, because this person, based on their feedback, make sure that I missed a step. Make sure you get feedback based on the experience that you gave them, right? And that can also inform future offerings, right? Because you're getting market research, you're getting legit feedback from people that have bought from you. But then I would also encourage you to put them back into that nurture sequence, and to maybe, if you have a very specialized service or offering that you're going to do, then that way you automatically have a hot pipeline to launch your next offer. So that's what I would say the sales cycle. A little bit of entrepreneurial, a little bit of corporate.
That's really good. And you brought up a few things that I wanted to point out because I think that they're critical. One is the nurturing. So if someone is not, now and I think this is where people get confused. There's a difference between a buyer that says, no, not interested, bye, I don't ever want to hear from you again, and one who says, hey, I'm not interested right now, but I'd love to stay connected. And so based on the tone of the person who responds to your offer, you may need to keep them in that nurturing phase for a while. And I'll tell you, recently, I had a corporate client, my first big corporate client. They did not buy from me until after a year later. And they just followed me on LinkedIn. I kept putting out content. I kept talking about different things, and they came up and bought from me. I had another client I signed this week. Now they're buying 2 or 3 legal services, but I pitched them originally a little over a year ago. But they were like, hey, yeah, sure, this is great. I'm ready to go on the legal services now. And it's okay, but had I pitched them and then I went dark, they didn't hear from me for 2 years. They didn't know if I was even still doing what I proclaimed to be great at, I would have never got that business. So I think that it's really critical. That nurturing stage, I feel, is the most critical piece of the puzzle. But it's almost like if someone says no, we automatically just give up on them for life. We're like, oh, well.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself. And I think I posted this on Instagram a couple weeks back. It was to the effect of, it's still a warm lead. You just gave up too soon. And I think that speaks volumes to especially online entrepreneurs, because we're used to that instant gratification. Our feed is filled up with all of these I don't know, online business coaches. No disrespect to the online business coaches out there because it's a huge industry, but you see your feed filled up like, oh, I just signed up, 24K and all of these coaching clients and all I had to do was snap my fingers and send a couple of DMs. No, like I don't care how good you are. That person had to have been warming up their audience for a long time and building that trust with people. So yeah, I mean, don't get discouraged. It's still a warm lead. Just don't give up.
Yep. And we discount how valuable it is to keep that audience warm. I know that for me, so most of y'all know I have a 2.5-month-old. She'll be 3 months, August 5th. Time is flying. And so my first year in business, I was putting out a ton of content. I did over 100 live videos. I did way more than 100 live videos, but I have at least 100 good ones that I still rotate in and out every now and then. So I did all these live videos. And the first 6 months of my legal practice, I was just putting out content. We made our 6 figures in the last 6 months of the year. Like, all of it. So it's just like what people don't realize is it takes people a while to figure out if you're consistent because they see so many people that come up online and say, hey, I'm an expert at this. This is what I do. But then in 3 months, their business is shut down or that you don't hear from them anymore or they've pivoted or rebranded or whatever. And there's just no level of consistency. So it may feel like you're putting out all this content. No one's listening. No one's liking. No one's sharing. No one cares. But on the back end, what you're going to get from that is referral. So we've been in business 2 years and the last, all the business this year that we've had, probably 80% of it has been referral, not direct pitching. And we still direct pitch. We still put out content, but the people we're direct pitching, we're still new to them. So they got to go through that year long. Okay, is she legit? Is this real? Do I like her? But all the people that we pitched last year are now like, all right, we're ready to go. Let's go. Where do I sign? So you have to keep that nurture. I feel like that is the most unsexy part of selling is the nurturing phase because nothing's happening. Checks aren't being signed, but it's the most important.
I love that you said everything like that because I can relate and another reason why I love side gigs so much is because you are not going to be making bank with your side gig until you do at least a 6 to 8, even a year-long immersion in your industry, putting out content like you had mentioned. And funny story about that is I completely changed courses on what my focus was about 6 months ago. I just got rid of I was doing a lot of ride share kind of things, right? Because I was already kind of in that world, right? Mm-hmm. So I made it a conscious decision when you do change and when you do need to pivot. I hate that word. You got to put $20 in the pivot jar. When you do need to pivot, right? You have to stay consistent and you still have to put content out. And again, like you said, it's unsexy. You're not going to be, signing clients left and right, but that's why a side gig is so good because you can also be making money with your full-time job, paying your bills. But yeah, I mean, I've had the podcast for a year now. I'm officially launching a sales coaching in the next week or two, but it's taken me a year of building up content.
I love podcasts. I mean, I've been able to talk to people that I would have never been able to just sit down with for an hour and chat with them because of the podcast. So when you put out, and then this is another thing that I guess we could talk about because it directly relates to selling, putting out strategic content. Don't start a podcast about dogs if your business isn't about dogs. Hello, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? Unless you just want to have a hobby. I'm not talking to people who want to have a hobby. They want to just do it for the love of doing it, whatever. That's cool. I don't have time to do that. The level of detail that it takes and the money that I have to put into a podcast for it to be good, I don't have time to do it as a hobby. But there are some people that do, so more power to you. But if you're not putting it out for a hobby, you want your podcast to bring in clients, you want your Instagram posts to bring in clients, then you need to do some content planning.
Hey guys, Ashley Kirkwood here, and I just want to take a moment to invite you out to the Speak Your Way to Cash retreat. If you enjoy this podcast, then you will love the Speak Your Way to Cash 2020 retreat in October. This retreat is for speakers looking to grow their speaking businesses, land corporate or college clients, and skyrocket their earning potential as a speaker. The in-depth sessions at this multi-day retreat will leave you understanding exactly the high-level client acquisition strategies that I use to land corporate clients. You'll also know the exact steps you need to be taking to grow your current business. Let's get to the nitty-gritty. The sessions are amazing. We talk about selling your signature speech, and we actually have time to go over the techniques of speaking. So if you want to become a better speaker as well as a higher paid speaker, then you should come out. We have another session called TEDx Secrets. Bring your laptops. We are actually going to be looking up and applying to TEDx Talks at the retreat. This session will be critical if you're someone who wants to land a TEDx Talk. Client secrets. You'll hear from actual clients about what they want from speakers just like you, and selling success. We cannot do a retreat without talking about selling. But here's the session that I'm most excited about. We are going to do a vision organizational chart party. That means we are going to have not just vision boards, but vision org boards. We are going to map out how your speaking organization should be staffed, what you want that to look like, and how to use global outsourcing in a way that lets you fund the positions in your company that are currently open. So it's for you if you're ready to level up. If so, meet me in Chicago in October. Reserve your seat now. I'm only taking 30 speakers on this retreat. So go to ashleynicolekirkwood.com/2020 retreat. And the best part is you can get early bird pricing now of $550, or you can reserve your seat for just $75 down and make payments until the retreat. That's right. You can either pay in full and get early bird pricing of $550 for the entire 2-day experience, or you can reserve your seat for just $75 down. Whatever you decide to do, make sure you're in the room. It's going to be impactful, and I'm ready to help you start speaking your way to cash in October. Again, the website is ashleynicolekirkwood.com/2020 retreat. See you soon. Can't wait, guys.
And one of the things that I love about you, Elena, is that your content, one, it looks great. Two, it's so well done. You all have to go to her Sidegig Central website and look at her show notes. They're gorgeous. I do not have show notes like that. Do not expect that. But she has gorgeous show notes. So look at how she puts out the content, how strategically it's done.
Thank
you. Because you're so great at that, what do you say about content that sells you? Like, how do you craft content that brings in clients organically?
Oh, that's such a great question. And I think that what it comes down to is to talk to the audience. And Instagram has been a really great way for me to get direct feedback from people who are actually listening to the show and what they want to know about next, right? Yep. So, and then based on their feedback, I find people through Instagram, actually, I find people that will fit that description and will fit that question mark that they have, right? Because it's not about me at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. It's about solving problems for people that I want to help. So that's how I start the discovery process of finding new guests for the show.
Yep.
And what was really cool about you, Ashley, was I had you on the show. I was getting a lot of questions about like, I don't feel confident to like put my stuff out into the world if I try a side gig. And, and that's why I was like, oh, currency of confidence. And then we like connected and I was like, oh, and it all fit together really nicely. But I think you have to take a step back. Don't do self-serving content. No one cares. Again, unless you're Oprah, like no one really cares about the vloggy, like day-to-day kind of stuff. Right. Unless you're like really super interesting. But I think it goes back to finding what people want to know about.
Yep. No, I totally agree with that. And that's a really good point. So you ask your audience what you want. And that brings me to another point coming up. I think the end of July, we're going to do a focus group in the Speak Your Way to Cash community to find out more about what people want and how they want us to serve them. Because I don't do a lot of, like you said, there's a lot of online business coaches and all that. I don't really have the time to do that for a lot of people at the price point that a large amount of people can really have access to me. I just don't. I don't do it because it doesn't really make sense for me financially, but I may be able to do a group program that works. We did one our first year and we loved it and people got a lot of great results from it, but I am not But we are going to do a focus group. So asking makes a lot of sense. And I see we have a question here from Odell, who's a speaker. So I'm going to give you that question in a minute. If you all are interested in the focus group, go to www.ashleynicolekirkwood.com/focus group. Put in the www because otherwise I don't know if the site will come up. It's something weird with Kartra, which is what I use. But you can go there if you want to be a part of the live video focus group. Before we get to Odell's question, I'm going to ask you this because you mentioned feedback. How do you get feedback during the sales process? Because you mentioned that you get it during. So I wanted to ask you that, and then we're going to go to Odell's question about content and show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I love to get feedback in DMs, and I love to get feedback over Zoom calls. And I love doing a Zoom call for feedback because you can pick up some of the micro expressions of people. And in this COVID world that we're in right now, it's, we don't have the ability to see everybody in person. And, I think it's important to not only see the other person's expression and kind of read their tone. I think at that point, you can also then cement your relationship with that person. I think it's really powerful. And I really, to be honest, I use the voice message feature a lot in DMs. Because number one, it's really quick on the fly and it just boom, sends it out, very stream of consciousness. But then at the same time, they can pick up on your energy because really, sales is energy. I want to work with somebody who's excited, who's going to go to bat for me. Right. And that's actually how I hired my copywriter. She was so pumped up to work on this project with me. She was like, yes. I was like, done. Okay. You're in. Right, exactly. So I want somebody, to be my ally. So again, I think Instagram DM does a really good job of that. But hopping on a Zoom call, I highly, highly recommend whenever you can. I mean, old school phone call, it does work, but I feel like Zoom is a little bit better because again, you get that personal one-to-one connection.
Yeah, 100%. And you mentioned a copywriter, and that brings us to Odell's question. How do you create those beautiful show notes on your site now? And I love it.
Oh, thanks, Odell. I appreciate that. So I have a WordPress website, and what I do is I ask every guest for a professional headshot. I use Canva for graphics because I don't know how to use anything else in Adobe. I don't have time for that.
Right.
So I slap that together on Canva. And then I do have an audio editor or a podcast editor. He sends me over the file. I definitely listen to it before I publish it. And then I'll just go, every minute and a half or so and kind of put in just a little quick blurb or a timestamp for some of the important parts. And then what I'll do too is I'll take some of those little snippets from the episode, and that's where I will craft my Instagram caption, my stories caption, all of the things that will come as collateral really for you to market your episode, right? So it's kind of
doing all this manually?
Yeah, right now. And I need, I need to, I know. So I probably do need to come up with a better system, but that's where I'm doing it now.
That is amazing. That's so much work. I can't even believe that. That's unbelievable. There is a tool. I don't know if it will work for you, but Timmy, it'll take the audio and transcribe it. And then I think it'll give you the timestamps too, but I'm not sure if it'll work if it's already recorded. So I know it does it if I talk into the tool, because I use that to have my team write my copy. I'll just do voice notes and then they'll do it. It's hard though, because I know what parts of the interview are really important. And I have a podcast manager, but he can't deduce in my brain what's important. So I have to still tell him. So I understand why you do it manually. That's just a huge amount of commitment. Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
It is. And like you had mentioned, I do think that there's probably an easier hack to actually get it done. But yeah, I'm here for all the tools.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I had a team meeting this morning and I was telling them, we have to start as a team leveraging tech. So I was like, look, if you guys have a tool that you've used at another company that works out, let me know. I'm quick to buy a tool if it'll work. And if it doesn't work, I just cancel it in a couple months. Just do the monthly and cancel it. But one thing that we did not cover is virtual selling. So you were at
Yes.
one point selling in person.
Yes.
And I've done outside sales and inside sales. And I think outside sales is easier personally, just because you can actually see the person and people aren't typically rude to your face. But on the phone, it's very easy to be like, oh, hang up. Like, I don't want to do this, which is why I don't do cold calling anymore.
Yeah.
I did it before, but I don't do it anymore. So what are your tips for building the relationship virtually when you're trying to close a corporate client? And typically speakers who are, if you have a topic that reaches all employees at a company, you're typically talking like HR directors or chief operations officers or chief marketing officers. So high level folks who make these decisions. What do you recommend for that? Because during COVID, we have to sell a little bit different.
Yeah. And the one big takeaway that you guys can take from this is feature your prospects in a way that they don't expect. And here's what I mean by that. So I will go in to I will even say a client that I don't even know. I'll maybe look at their stats. You have to do your research, understand what their pain points are. Once you're past all of that, feature them in a quarterly review, feature them in an upcoming, maybe even a case study that your company is doing. Because here's what it comes down to. People want to do business with people that they like, okay? You want to start off on a foot that's complimentary, that you're bringing value to the table before they even say, yeah, let me give this a shot, or before you even go in for the upsell. So I found this to be insanely, like just over the top working, because everybody's pitching. Yep. Everybody's saying, how do you differentiate yourself? Well, I'm coming in and saying, look, we'll say Mr. or Mrs. Customer, lady, man, you are doing a phenomenal job at doing what you do. When was the last time you were engaged with a conversation with somebody that says, man, you're doing a really great job, So then you kind of start on that road, because then that's going to build up the trust factor, right? Because we've all heard about the trust factor, right? Mm-hmm. But how do you get to somebody when you can't shake their hand and tell them all the wonderful benefits and features of your product or service? You can't. You have to start from a point where they know that you truly understand what their pain points are, and you truly can help them with a solution. And you start putting your foot in the door, not by some like weird gimmicky thing, but saying like, hey, I'm going to be a trusted ally. I'm going to be a trusted advisor for you. I see you're doing these things really well. I want to highlight this to whoever they report to, because that's like instant brownie points right there. Mm-hmm. and then once you gain their trust, then it's like easier to schedule the next meeting, easier to get them on the phone. Oh, Elena's calling me. All right, let me jump on this call. And then so it's not coming from a place of like me being defensive, me as being the potential client or customer, like, oh, I'm so defensive. I need to put this wall up and not be receptive to anything. But I think when you start nurturing the relationship in that way, you're going to have dramatically different results if you just come at them and say, oh, you should get X, Y, and Z thing because, we have 42%. Nobody cares about those stats. Nobody cares.
That's so true. And it's crazy because I just have done a really big pitch recently, and it was a huge pitch. I can't even talk about it, but financially huge. What was interesting was I got all the way to the final pitch, and I'm still under review, but all the way to the final pitch without them ever saying like, who are your past customers? Like, it was like, I was like, man, so I'm just going to submit this and we're just going to see what they're like. Yeah, it's no vote. We'll review it. We'll get back to you in a couple of weeks. I was like, huh. Interesting. And I think that we sometimes make it a little bit too complicated, but for speakers, a way to bring that home may be you write a LinkedIn article about the 5 best companies for human capital, and then you reach out to 5 of your favorite prospects and say, hey, you all are doing this. I think it's great. Any tips for companies that want to also start a program like this? I'd love to feature you in my next LinkedIn article that I'm going to be circulating to a whole bunch of people, insert that they care about. Like, you want to think about when you hear these things, because Elena does a lot of corporate selling, and we as speakers, hopefully the ones that come to my events are looking to do corporate selling, whether it's a college or it's a corporation. That is, colleges are corporations. It's just a matter of their distinction. It's all corporate selling, and they expect a certain level of process because they deal with salespeople all the time. So you want to make sure that you're on par with what folks in the industry are doing. But think about how you can stand out. Like, don't just go in with the typical pitch. And I'll tell you guys this, because I can't give you guys everything, obviously, because we'll be at the mastermind giving more details. But one thing that's worked for me has been sending out LinkedIn invites and just saying like, hey, I would love to connect with you. You know, let me know if you'd want me to send you my most recent TEDx talk. It's on diversity, and I see that you work in that space. And people who respond and say they want to see it, they always watch it, and I pretty much always book a call. And they're like, oh, we'd love to have you come in and speak. And
amazing.
It works every time. It's non-invasive. I'm not like, give me your email. I send them the public link. They watch the speech. And then when we talk about rates and everything else, they're not surprised. They're like, oh yeah, she's real. Like, this is legit.
Exactly. So it's like, and I love that you had mentioned about your TEDx talk, because there is a level of credibility that you have to have in place before you put any of these strategies in place, right? Like, yeah. I can't just go out like willy-nilly charging whatever rates I think I should be charging without me mentioning, oh, by the way, I was featured in Forbes. I was interviewed on the New York Stock Exchange about side gigs. You know, there are things that you need to have in your repertoire, in your yay folder, like, yay me, here are the things that, right? So like, you know, mentioning your TEDx talk and having that link like at the ready, I think it builds your credibility, and it just builds the case for like, it would be a no-brainer for me to not hire Ashley, right?
Or just check out the talk, and maybe you don't hire me right now. You're like, well, it's free to click this little link, and if you like it, then we just stay connected. I put you in that nurturing boat. Yeah. Because you're still going to get some no's. And for people who are like, well, how do I build this credibility? How do I get this media? How do I get press? Well, we're going to talk about that at the mastermind, because Elena has had huge media opportunities. So I think you're serving on that panel as well for media, and then also going to talk about corporate selling. So we'll talk about that. But let's say you have no media, no prospects. You don't know how to pitch the media. If you come to the event, you'll know how to pitch the media. But if you don't come, you're listening. You're like, look, I am just going to listen to Ashley forever for free, and I'm not going to buy any of her stuff. I got something for you too. At least write LinkedIn articles, because that's free. You can go right now and write a LinkedIn article and build credibility and just circulate that. Like, I'd love to send you my most recent LinkedIn article where I talked about X, Y, and Z. And most people are like, sure, send it over. No big deal. So I don't want to make it like, if you don't have all these things yet, one, you should get them. You should get them because it increases your rate. But if you don't have them, there are 3 things you can do to build your own credibility and to make yourself an authority in a particular topic.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think once you start getting comfortable putting your content out there, then you're going to be able to pitch the right way. And again, we're not going to spoil anything for October. So
right.
We're going to spill all the beans there.
And there are, like, if you listen to past episodes, we talk more about like pitching and what you can do even now. And there's all types of resources about that you all can find, whether you're listening to the podcast or you're in the Speak Your Way to Cash Facebook group. But yeah, guys, there's a lot we can do here. But this was really good. And I hope you all took notes on Elena's sales cycle, and she'll go more in depth on that in October for the people who are attending. But Elena, how can we stay in touch with you? How can we listen to your show? What should folks do next?
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you so much for having me on, Ashley. I always love our conversations. Always the best. You can find the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. It's called the Sidegig Central Podcast. Go and connect with me on Instagram. Send me a DM. I'm at sidegig_central. You can go to the website, sidegigcentral.com. Sometimes Twitter, search me on there. I'm there. But yes, I would love to connect with each one of you guys, talk about how I can help you. And of course, I'm looking forward to seeing everybody virtually in October.
Yes, for sure. Well, thanks again for joining Speak Your Way to Cash. And guys, thank you so much for joining.
All right. Wasn't that interview amazing? If you're anything like me, you have pages full of notes. But here's the thing. Before you head out, I want you to go to facebook.com and join the Speak Your Way to Cash Facebook group. That is where I am. That's where a ton of other speakers are, a ton of other people who listen to the show. We all congregate there and chat. And it's 100% free. Now, if you're ready to take your speaking career to the next level, I have 2 ways for you to do that. One, you can go to ashleynicolekirkwood.com/ SYWTC live replay and pick up the live replay. That training is 7 modules, chock full of information. It's crazy. Go over there, read all about it. Or if you want a more personal experience, you already know that you want to be a speaker. You're ready to fully commit and you want someone to walk you through it and save you tons of time Googling and doing it on your own, then book a VIP day with me. You can go to AshleyNicoleKirkwood.com, scroll down until you see the VIP day section and get more information on that there. All right. Thank you guys again for watching. Please do not forget to leave us a review. That is how we keep this train rolling and get some of the best speakers in the world to get on this show. So please, please, please leave a review. Shoot me a message on Facebook or Instagram, and Facebook in the Speak Your Way to Cash group, Instagram at The Ashley Nicole Show. And I'd be more than happy to chat with you and say hi. All right, y'all have an awesome, awesome day.